Joining us now is Ali Noorani, President and CEO of National Immigration Forum. Ali, good to have you here. Thank you so very much for getting up early with us this morning. What can FEMA do to help in this situation? And really, what does it say about the status of what's happening right now at the border?
Well, I think that FEMA is such an important agency in terms of being able to provide the logistics for CBP, Customs and Border Protection, to do their job, but more importantly, Health and Human Services to do their job. Because what happens is that as an unaccompanied minor appears at the border and presents him or herself for protection, which they're legally allowed to do, CBP takes them in for processing. Approximately, at most, should be 72 hours according to the law. Having FEMA step in gets that child out of a CBP facility, which is not designed for children whatsoever. These are, they're in essence kind of cells, right? So get them out of a CBP facility, get them into a FEMA facility that will have tents, will have the accommodations necessary to treat them with compassion. And then when HHS, Health and Human Services, is ready, move that child to HHS. And then HHS helps that child identify a legal guardian or parent who is here in the U.S. that can hold on to that child while the case moves forward. This is just a smart solution to a problem that by no means is unprecedented. In 2019, I have the numbers in front of me, we saw unaccompanied children in February of 7,200. The intent of the Biden administration is to treat these children with compassion. The intent of the Trump administration was to treat these children with cruelty.
Yeah, a very good distinction there, Ali. Obviously, you can see the political bind that Joe Biden is in right now in this situation when you have other members of the Democratic Party like Nancy Pelosi calling this a humanitarian crisis. What does the Biden administration essentially need to do here, given the fact that they're really sandwiched from progressives like AOC and Ilhan Omar, who have been calling for much more to be done at the border, but nothing has really happened so far?
Well, a lot hasn't really happened. I got to be honest with you. I mean, and I'm not going to say, because of the amount of times they've been, but a lot has happened. They have moved, facilities to the border. They have, quite frankly, tried to rebuild the immigration system from scratch. I think what the Biden administration needs to do is to put forward very clear metrics that they can be measured against. How much time is a child going to be spending in a CBP facility, in a FEMA facility? How long will it take for that child to find their parent or guardian through Health and Human Services? Those are clear numbers. Let's make sure that the Biden administration is hitting those numbers. Let's look at the standards of care within these facilities. That is actually probably one of the most important things, because they're going to have to move a lot of money to a lot of contractors to help care for these children while they're in Health and Human Services custody. And the standards of care that these children are living under is so critical to their long-term health.
Absolutely. Such a good point. What is, for our viewers who are, again, just hearing about this story really for the first time, Ali, what is the reason why we're seeing such an influx of unaccompanied children going to the border right now? What's the cause of this?
Well, again, this happens pretty much every spring, and it's been happening since I would say about 2014, when we first started to see a spike in unaccompanied children from Central America. Now, what is pushing children from Central America? It's a combination of factors. Those factors include violence, corruption, impunity, and ultimately poverty. I mean, these are countries that have massive economic inequities. They have governments that are failing to root out corruption, if not corrupt themselves. Under the Obama administration, there was an influx of resources to start to help kind of build up civic society in a place like Honduras. And under the Trump administration, those dollars were pulled back. So the progress that a country like Honduras made in 2015 and 16 really started to backslide over the last 4 years. So it's going to take time to really restore the confidence of families, for example, in Honduras, in their country. And once they have regained that confidence, they're not going to, quite frankly, send their children to the U.S.-Mexico border. And finally, I would say, the only people that are winning right now are the cartels. They're the ones selling this dream in Central America. They're the ones charging these families anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000, and they're the ones that are, often holding these children and families for ransom once they reach the border.
Oh, just so heartbreaking. Ali, from what's happening now in Capitol Hill, Joe Biden's obviously going to try to look for his next sort of bipartisan compromise when it comes to his next bill that he wants to get done, and that's regarding immigration. Democrats are basically going to test the waters on two different bills, essentially. One would provide a path to citizenship for dreamers. The second one essentially would provide a path path to citizenship for farm workers in the country illegally. How do you sort of see this playing out on Capitol Hill? Obviously, it's going to pass the House, but what kind of chances do you see it having in the Senate?
Well, it's interesting. On the Senate side, you already have Senators, excuse me, Durbin and Graham have filed a bipartisan version of the DREAM Act. So that's a very good step forward. We're hoping that we're going to see something similar from Democrats and Republicans on the agricultural bill. Ultimately, under current rules, we need to get to 10 Republicans in order to pass these two pieces of legislation. But this is the fun part about this, is that, you have something like the DREAM Act, which is going to be supported by Democrats and Republicans in larger states. But then with the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, the agricultural bill, that brings along Republicans who are in more rural or agricultural states who, quite frankly, they're hearing from their farmers, for example, dairy farmers in Wisconsin or upstate New York or more importantly, like Idaho, which have massive dairy industries. They're really depending on this piece of legislation to stabilize their workforce both today and into the future. So we could see and some interesting vote coalitions on these two pieces of legislation.
Yeah, especially just those names you mentioned right there. Typically, you don't see that group of people working together too often. Ali Noorani, such a pleasure to have you here, President and CEO of the National Immigration Forum.